Welcome, everyone, to this month's edition of Cabaret Conversations through the 92nd Street Y School of Music. As always, I am your host, Michael Kirk Lane, and I am so thrilled for this month's guest. They don't get any sweeter than our guest this month. She, of course, made her Broadway debut in Gypsy, the original production with Ethel Merman. She's been seen on Broadway in the original production of Cabaret, Carnival, All American, Don't Drink the Water. They're playing our song Brighton Beach Memoirs, and of course, was Tony nominated for her work in Chapter 2. On film, she's most known as Mona in Moonstruck. And on TV, she made her debut on The Ed Sullivan Show before appearing in shows such as Bob, Carol, Ted and Alice, Quincy Emmy, becoming the queen of the game shows for many years, including her work on Pyramid at all of its different money levels. She's also played Tina Fey's mom on 30 Rock and has been seen on Modern Family and Blue Bloods. In the cabaret world, she is a Bistro Award recipient and a three-time MAC Award winner, including in 2020 for her Lifetime Achievement Award. Please welcome to Cabaret Conversations through the 92nd Street Y, New York School of Music, the one and only Anita Gillette.
Hi.
Hello, Anita. How are you? I'm so thrilled to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, I have adored you from afar before we met. And then once we met through our work in the cabaret world, I just adored you even more.
Oh, and it's so sweet.
Well, it's the truth.
Well, you called me sweet. That's what a lot of people, when I was introduced on the Bell Telephone Hour once, and Buster Davis was in charge of doing all the music, And what could be sweeter than Anita when we meet her? I never got over that. And I loved when he sang, and what could be finer than Miss Hannah Marie Reiner, wonderful dancer, ballet dancer. Anyway, sweeter than Anita.
I think that should be your intro anytime you come on stage. It's your new theme song.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Buster.
Well, Anita, I always like to start at the beginning when we have these conversations. How did you first get involved in theater and music? Was it a teacher? Was it theater around you at home? Where did you get your in?
Well, I always sang, I remember when I was a real kid, like 8, 9, 10.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother lived in the city in Baltimore. Balmerhun, that's where I'm from. And that's the way we talk down there. And she lived in Hollandtown. No diphthongs there, dear. It's Highland Town, but we called it Hollandtown. And my grandmother used to live there with the big white marble steps. And I was one of her best scrubbers of the marble steps because you were nothing if you didn't have clean marble steps. And so Sandsoap and me with the scrub brush got there twice a day. But at any rate, on a Friday, Saturday night, the neighbors would sit out in the summer on their marble steps, and there was a gaslight lamppost. I mean, real, had to be lit by people. That's how old I am. And I used to organize all my girlfriends and friends, kids in the neighborhood who wanted to sing. It was all a cappella, no accompaniment, And we would just we would form a group of people on the marble steps in our block, 122 South Bolden Street in Balmer, and the kids would all get out and sing, and that's when I started, and that became an addiction. I guess that's what I think is proper to say, that's what we must crave and expressing ourselves. So, but I didn't think when I was growing up, when I joined every choir, all the church choirs I sang in, and I did all that, but I never believed I really, ever make it to anywhere. I just thought it was something I would love to do, but who thought I could do it, I didn't get a lot of encouragement from the family. I mean, they loved the way I sang, but, I had 5 redheaded aunts that would get to aunts that would get together
Mhm.
around the great big old piano in the living room, and my aunt Effie would play, and the other four would get together, and they would sing all these songs. But I was just a little,
Mm.
but those that singing around that piano just made me want to be one of those girls.
Mhm.
And everybody sang in my family. They just all did, except my dad, and we only heard him sing way, way late in his life. And that was an amazing thing. He was a beautiful singer once he opened his mouth about it. But
When
I
was it
just,
that you realized, oh, this could be a real thing for me?
well, I guess it was when I got out of high school because my family didn't have a lot of money, and I had to um, work. I learned medical stenography because at
Mm.
one point I thought I should be in the medical field, like a nurse or something. And I learned medical steno so that I could get a good job when I was 15 years old. And I got a job working for my family doctor and taking dictation, and I knew all the steno Greg for the medical terms, and I got a job after high school working at the Army Chemical Center in the
Mm.
biophysics division. I loved science, I really did,
Mm.
and it was like a choice, did I go that way? But at the Army Chemical Center, one of the soldiers there uh, was a big theater lover, and he got a show together, and we did it at the big,
Mm.
at the auditorium on base, and just to get that applause, it
Mhm.
was just amazing. And so I started thinking about it, and I was always encouraged, but I never had the confidence. I
Mhm.
didn't think that I could do it. But then I um, I got confidence. I got married to Dr. Gillette, who was a soldier there,
Mm.
and that is when and he we were going to go to Terre Haute, Indiana. This is what I call the magic moment.
Mm.
I have a song that I sing from a flop that I did called The Gay Life. It was called Magic Moment. And for me, this was a magic moment because I was typing up the letter of acceptance for Dr. Gillette, who's a physiologist, to go to Terre Haute, Indiana, when he got a telegram from Cornell Medical College right here in New York. And
Mm.
that's how I ended up here. My husband brought me here,
Mm.
Dr. Gillette. And and then just being around it, I would go to all the theater and everything. And then there were auditions, and I used to go to big auditions like chorus audition,
Mhm.
and I got a job at the North Shore Music.
Oh, sure, of course.
That was a huge decision, whether I left my real job, which paid me money, and
Mhm.
I knew I could count on it every week, or go and be in the chorus. And we discussed it and discussed it and discussed it, and I went to Beverly. And that was the beginning of it all. An agent named Laura Arnold saw me up there, put me in Pal Joey at the paper mill, and that was it. That was the beginning.
And then big New York credits came very quickly after that.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I had a good voice. I mean, I still sing well.
Yes, you have not had, you have a good voice, Anita.
Yeah, but I was never a belter. I was always a soprano, and I just I got when they were auditioning for an understudy for Anna Maria Alberghetti. I had just had my first kid,
Mm.
and I was chunky. And when I had done Gypsy, all those girls, the big tall girls with the big, what, on the other side of I was one of the Hollywood blondes on this side of the mirror on the fifth floor of the Imperial, and
Mhm.
the big tall showgirls were, on the other side. And they decided I should be a redhead. And during the first act one night, they dyed my hair red.
Bring
I
the
went in
show.
with hair like this or darker, and I came out with a red hair. And Ron Gillette went, "What?" But that was how I got to be a redheaded woman, was from the gypsy people. But then, when I auditioned for a carnival, I mean,
Hmm.
Anna Maria Albuquerque was like she was European, and they didn't want you to do a fake accent. They just wanted you to do a continental type.
Hmm.
But because I looked young enough then, even with my extra weight, because I was still nursing my baby when I got in that audition, and and Gower, they hired me because they needed somebody right away, and I could really sing it.
Hmm.
That was the thing, and I looked young enough, in spite of the fact that I just had a baby. So that was the beginning of it all, and then he was going to fire me because of the way I looked. I mean, red hair, chunky. I
Mm.
looked as much like a European waif as Sophie Tucker. I mean, it was silly. So they, they said we're going to, keep you at this salary, and I originally had a run of the play contract. If I would have, just they promised they would change my after 5 days out of town. They would give me $25 more a week, David Merrick. I was making 175 in the course on a pink contract. And then one day they said, Gower wants to see you and Igor Gavin. Anyway, we were understudying Jerry Orbach.
Hmm.
Uh, Gower came in one door and walked slowly in the room while we were, trying to do the words we hadn't rehearsed at all. And he walked out, and then he fired me, saying we'd love you to stay as the gypsy banging the tambourine, but we are going to look for somebody to understudy. But please stay. Well, that was a big decision. I
Hmm.
stayed. I lost weight. I dyed my hair. I got to know the show,
Hmm.
and I would go to rehearsal for the matinee on Saturday, and there'd be 5 girls, some of them my good friends, who had written me saying, "We're looking for your job. Are you leaving?"
Mm.
And they would audition, these women. I would wait, these girls would do their audition, and I would go and rehearse. And I just got to know the part. And then I gave my notice in because I got another job. I was not signed to a whole year. I was on a 2 week out. And I
Mm.
auditioned for the gay life for Clement Garden. And I got the job. I had one song and one scene. And I would understudy Barbara.
Mm.
And so I gave my notice in on a Saturday night. Anna Maria Albuquerque went to the hospital on Sunday morning.
Oh.
That afternoon, David Merritt called me and said, "You're on tonight." I mean, tomorrow. I went, "What?" And I mean, they didn't know that I had given my notice on that Saturday night.
Oh.
Merritt didn't know it. And I'm just going on what all that was, with me firing me because I was too chunky and
Hmm.
red haired and all that. And I didn't know the show. But anyway, so boy, you talk about being thrown out there. I did have some rehearsals behind me, thank God.
Hmm.
And man, I just I nailed it. I just went out there with this little piece of paper, like about this size, which was my prop. And I stood, I had a run through with Jerry Orbach, who was wonderful, and Jimmy Mitchell and Kay Ballard, and all those people were so good. And I, I just sort of, I don't know, it just happened. And I got a standing ovation. And then David Merrick, who was all over me and so wonderful, all that. The next day called me up and said, "You'll never work for me again. I just found out that you gave your notice." And that was the other end of it.
Mhm.
But he changed his mind.
Well, and I've heard you tell this story before, so I want to ask the question about you almost getting let go from Gypsy.
Almost what?
Getting
Getting,
let go from Gypsy
uh,
and Ethel saving you.
oh, because I got pregnant.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right. That I used to, I guess I endeared myself to Ethel Merman because I used to go watch her. I thought, what better lesson from
Right.
whom could I learn a better lesson than this woman, this incredible woman? This, and I would stand in the wings, behind the curtain and watch her every single performance I could. I learned so much from Ethel Merman.
Mm.
And then, when they found out I was pregnant, they were going to fire me. And Ethel stepped in and said, "No, no, no, no. The kid stays in the show. All right, so she doesn't do those splits. She can still do the cartwheels. You can still do the cartwheels, right? Yes, you can still do the cartwheels. The kid stays in the show." And she saved my job.
Amazing.
So I stayed in the show till almost my 8th month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because the baby, my first, he was like this, just like an egg, point to point. But I still had a waist because we had those naked costumes in Gypsy as the Hollywood blondes. We had
Mhm.
to stand in the Christmas tree, and I only had little holly berries on my and a little holly berry G-string. It was one night I said, "If you don't cover my holly berries as my boobs grow, I'm not opening my cape in the tree." And that's when they took me out.
They just didn't have enough holly berries to make you the new pasties, I guess.
Yeah. No. Jeez, I'm nutty.
What I have to ask, because we talk so much, and we'll get more to this more about the importance of the composers and lyricists in the world of cabaret. And I can't ever hear not ask about working with Irving Berlin.
Oh, oh, that was a blessing. That really was a blessing. Uh, they cast me as a president's daughter. He had come to, his offices were very near the Winter Garden, and I did All American at the Winter Garden and before Mr. President.
Mhm.
And apparently, he used to come down on Wednesday matinees from his office and watch me do my number. He knew exactly what time it went on, and he used to watch from the back of the Winter Garden. And then my agent called and said they want to see you. They want to audition you for the new Irving Berlin show for the role of the president's daughter. And I mean, I had to audition twice. And yet he said, "I always knew you were going to do this part." They made me audition twice anyway. He was just like a dad,
Mm.
he just was so, he loved jokes, silly jokes, the kind of jokes my children would come and tell me from school. Like,
Mhm.
why is the beach like a picnic? Because of all the sandwiches there. I mean, stupid jokes like that. That's how we formed a bond. And he wrote that song with me in mind. Secret Service makes me nervous. And we just became good friends. He had a tendency to a dark side. As wonderful and light and positive as he was on one side, that he could go the other way like that.
Mm.
And his secretary, uh, Hilda Schneider, who was from Queens, and she would talk like this all the time. She would call me and say, Anita, listen, it's here, Mr. B. He would love to see you. I know I'm here. Could you come over here and cheer him up? So I would go over to his office full of the jokes that my kids would tell me or what I'd heard, and we would laugh, you know, and we
Mm.
bonded in that way. And I just thought he was a wonderful person. And Hilda said, "Oh, Hilda Schneider was terrific. And Helmy, who played all his songs on that piano. We all used to have lunch together. And so I adored Irving Berlin. And I think he kind of liked me.
Well, I think that's the perfect intro to our first clip for this evening.
Okay.
Because you mentioned the song he wrote for you, so I think we should hear the song he wrote for you.
Thank you.
Sing tonight the song I sang that he wrote for me, and you have to imagine I'm a teenage girl. And it's called "The Secret Service Makes Me Nervous." Oh my God. Okay. The Secret Service makes me nervous. When I am dating, they are waiting to observe us. When I get ready to hold steady for a kiss he'll plant, the Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't. They're always spying, no denying. They're always peeping, gumshoe creeping, private eyeing. When I'm beginning to give inning like a maiden aunt, the Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't. I've been exposed beyond control, just like a goldfish in a bowl. The president's daughter must drink water. No drink of scotch, she might do what she hadn't ordered. When I'm ignited, so excited that I start to pant, the Secret Service makes me nervous when my lamps are lit and I say, this is it. The Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't. The Secret Service makes me nervous. Those White House dicks get all their kicks when they observe us. Just as I wind up, make my mind up not to say I won't. The Secret Service makes me nervous and I don't. When things look rosy, they get nosy. They'll say there's Tootsie playing footsie, very cozy. My pulse goes higher, I'm on fire, shaking at the knees. The Secret Service makes me nervous and I freeze. Whatever I may do or say will be reported the next day. When I'm reported, it's distorted. They don't see clearly when I'm merely being courted. When I'm just necking, simply pecking with a Cary Grant. The Grant was added out of town at the Colonial. They stand behind me to remind me who and what I am when I don't give a damn. A Secret Service makes me nervous and I can't.
Oh, God. It's a good song.
Oh, it's a great song. And I can't even imagine what it must have been like to know that Irving Berlin wrote it for you.
He did. He got my sense of humor because I always wanted to be funny. I always wished I were a really funny person, And I managed sometimes to be really funny. And that was a funny song. So I was thrilled.
I've heard you talk about wanting to really focus on dramatic acting, and that it was Cabaret that gave you the in for that, you said.
I think so. It was great to play Sally after playing all those ingenues that I played, and to get a part with a lot of dramatic meat, and that was a joy to take over from Jill Haworth, the original Sally,
Mm.
to take over that role. It was wonderful. I had such a great time doing that part. It was a delight. I did it for 2 years on Broadway. I had a great.
Now, you didn't do your first full-length cabaret show
I
until 2012, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
What took you so long, Anita?
I just didn't. I don't know. I just thought I needed a script, and I was getting work,
Mhm.
and I don't know, but I'm loving doing cabaret.
Mhm.
If I get it right, but so far I've had this great thing with them, and I tell my stories and they seem to like them, and so I'm having a ball doing it.
Now, in the early days in the city, as you were doing, Gypsy and all of these shows,
Yeah,
were you going out to the nightclubs? Were you seeing the art form at that point? Because that was still the heyday of people
yeah,
doing their 8 o'clock Broadway shows and then doing an 11 o'clock set of their
yeah.
cabaret or nightclub act somewhere.
I tell you the truth, I really didn't go. I used to go to see Julie Wilson because I
Mhm.
adored her, and I mean, she became a friend, and I saw her a lot, and let's see, I used to go occasionally, I I I was just loved Joe Williams. You remember Joe Williams? I
I
had a
know of
big
Joe Williams.
big crush on Joe Williams. Oh my God. And I went to the Blue Note to see him
Mhm.
all the time, as much as I could. And I remember Joe Williams asked me to come up and sing with him once. And he
Mm.
sat me, he was a big, tall guy, and he sat me on his lap, and my knees could not bend over his lap. So I sat there like this little kind of baby doll sitting,
Oh.
with my he was a wonderful, wow, my God, what a singer. What a singer he was. But I didn't think I could sing like that. I thought nobody would be interested in a soprano,
Hmm.
you know, although cabaret was not a soprano role, but I didn't think I was as good, enough to just be singing with no chorus and just me.
Which it surprises me, and I will say when Chita Rivera was on the show, she said something very similar.
She did?
That
Yeah,
as John and Fred were trying to push her to do her first club act, she was scared
yeah,
to not have
yeah.
the ensemble with her, to not have the character
That's
to
it.
hide behind.
That's right. It is frightening to go out there on your own and face an audience, and the material is stuff you've made up and songs that you've chosen,
Hmm.
and I didn't know. I was scared about
Mm.
it, but I got convinced, especially when I needed to work. I needed to express myself, and
Hmm.
and the shows weren't coming in right. I wasn't. It was I don't know what I've been doing, but this you have a little control over. You can book yourself, pay all the musicians. I mean, you don't break even sometimes. It's like you're paying to work almost, but
Yeah.
it is fulfilling.
Who was it who really then, when you made the decision to do that first show, that kind of took you by the hand? It's like, this is how we're doing it. This is what this art form is.
Well, have to. I mean, through this time, I met a lot of people that were
Hmm.
doing, cabaret, uh, and and I think it was Barry Kleinborth,
Hmm.
that I came in touch with, uh, and then Paul Greenwood. I
Hmm.
never would have been able to do this without Paul Greenwood.
Hmm.
I mean, he's just like he breathes with me. And I don't remember, tell you the truth, because as you get old like me, you start losing.
And have throughout your, just over a decade now of really actively being in the art form, it's always been Barry and Paul, right?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
In the decade now of you doing
Decade,
Cabaret,
yeah.
it's always been Barry and Paul, right?
Yeah, it's Barry and Paul, right? Yep, that's it.
How does that team work together? What's the magic sauce with the three of you?
Well, trust.
Mm-hmm.
I think trust, and the fact that they encourage me. They get my lack of confidence disappears when they are around. They, they boost me. They
Mm-hmm.
make me feel competent enough to do it. And you have to have that courage. You have to have that confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, when I was starting, oh, Michael, I didn't have it. I thought, oh my God, I'll be out there all about, But I gradually got there, and they were my boosters. Thank God. So that's how I got to, do what I'm doing. And I'm so glad that I I got into the cabaret.
It's interesting to me because seeing some clips of you from some of the early TV variety shows and the Bell Telephone Hour and
Yeah.
all of these shows you were doing, you were already implementing so much of what we call the cabaret performance style.
Uh-huh.
You were doing intimate, lyric-driven work
That's
in
true.
those television appearances.
That's true. But there was something about the television part of it I mean, there was Buster Davis who, helped you know what you're going to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had that in the Bell Telephone Hour Orchestra under you. I mean, what could be bad?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then you were working with people like Jack Jones. I ended up doing, oh God, what was the show? The one, da da da. No, that's music. The other Barbara Cook, the one where she does the big high. Oh, it's terrible. I should have written all this down.
Candide?
No, not Candide.
No.
Oh.
If you're listening and want to drop it in the chat, if you know the name
Tell
of
me
the show,
what it is.
put it in the chat so we can know.
Yeah.
She Loves Me. Michael Colby has told us it was
She
She Loves Me.
She Loves Me.
Thank you, Michael Colby.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for helping and that song, that high. Well, that was something I wanted to achieve because Barbara Cook was my idol. I just thought if I could got ever got it as she dramatically.
Well, I have another clip, and to prove the early TV show appearance and the amazing nuanced lyric work you were doing in that, I am going to play a clip. And it does not say what television show this is from, but it says it is from 1964.
Oh my goodness.
Here we are.
Does it fall from skies above?
Oh, that was sweet. Thank you for playing.
Where's
That was
Love from
Bell,
Oliver.
Bell Telephone Hour. Oh, that was a lovely show, Oliver. Because I'd never get to do Nancy. I was, you know, soprano.
Well,
Thank
so you
you.
got to sing Oliver's song. It's so, you're so precise, and the lyric is so well delivered in that performance.
Thank you very much. I was very that show always. Whenever I sing anything from that, well, I try to get into everything. That one especially is a favorite of mine. I love that show and that song.
You have also, beyond your partnership with Barry and Paul, you have another important cabaret partnership.
Yes.
And that, of course, is with Penny Fuller.
Penny, yeah.
So how did that partnership begin?
We were competitors all the time.
Mm.
People actually used to mistake us for each other. I don't know how, why, because when you put us side by side, we really don't, you know. And I'm more a singer, and she was more, she had done Shakespeare, etc.
Mhm.
And I, you know, I was a singer. And but we were up for the same jobs sometime. And then we were invited to a Christmas party at Len Carrier's house. And it was a big party, a lot of people around, and I was there on my own, and she was there on her own. And we found each other in this big crowd, and we each had a glass of something. And we just sort of met and said, "Oh my God, and we sort of discussed it." And what we did, we got into such a heavy conversation, and the people around it, we got tired, so we slid down the wall, you know, and people were going around us like that, and we were on the floor, and we had the most incredible, deep conversation, the two of us, and we just decided that we were like. People would come up to her and say, "Oh, Anita, I love your work." And the same thing would happen to me. People would say, "Oh, Penny." I said, "I'm not Penny." And she would say, "I'm not Anita." And so we got into this, you know, thing. And then her mother used to do this spoonerism thing called, you know, taking like instead of twin sisters, she would say sin twisters. So we decided to do a cabaret show, and that's what we decided to call it. And we've done like 5 of them now. We're about to do this.
You've got another one coming up, right?
Yeah, Birdland.
April 17th, correct?
That's it, a Monday night.
It's 7 o'clock at Birdland. If you are listening to this in real time or watching it early on in the replay, make sure to get your tickets to go see them at Birdland. How much of the show is new? Is it the same show?
We do different things. We have a different opening, completely different opening, which we're struggling now because we're putting together things that, and she's never done this song. I did this song years ago in my solo show, but the timing and the lyrics are different. And so sometimes it's harder to unlearn something than it, you know what I mean? Than to learn it. So we're both struggling, but we're doing very well. Thank you very much, everybody. And, I think it's going to be a hell of a show. I really do.
Well, it always is with the two of you together, which brings us to our next clip of the evening, which is you two together.
Ah, good.
Here we are, Penny Fuller and Anita Gillette.
Once upon a time, the world was sweeter than we knew. Everything was ours. How happy we were then. But somehow, once upon a time, never comes again. Once upon a time, it seemed the world was painted gold, and there was a man, and oh, I loved him so. The world was beautiful to see very long ago. On a night like this, we watched the rising of the moon. All the silver stars, like necklaces, were strung. We spoke of such important things. We were very young. How the breeze ruffled through his hair. How we always laughed as though tomorrow wasn't there. We were young, so young, and didn't have a care. Where did it go? Once upon a time, the world was sweeter than we knew. Everything was ours. How happy we were then. But somehow, once upon a time, never comes
One of my favorite songs.
Anita, how has incorporating cabaret into your performance life, has it changed you as a performer, do you think?
Well, I think the basics are the basics, and that when you have to stray sometimes and reach for something different, you know. And I've never done Shakespeare like Penny, but I've done other kind of things. I just feel that cabaret is a more intimate kind of thing than even touching base with the audience when you're in a play. I mean, there's not the distance of the orchestra pit or the audience or them, and then you're in your state of mind during the show, playing your role as you know it, and finding all that meat that you need to find to give that performance. But there's the participatory part of being like talking and touching almost people. It's exciting, and I do. I mean, that's the thing. That's the real addiction. Although I do love, trying to conquer a role, find out she's like, but the intimacy of what cabaret does for me is greatly appreciated. I really enjoy it.
Do you find cabaret in its performance style to be closer to Broadway or closer to a television performance?
much closer to Broadway because the audience is right there. When you're doing television, usually it's just although when I did the game shows, we had always had an audience, but when I did the Bell Telephone Hours, we were just over in Brooklyn in the Brooklyn studios over there for NBC, and it was uh, it was live. It was live. And there's nothing like live TV. I mean, we had no audience, but they shot it. And, they were, all the cameras were around, and then they would cut the commercial and stuff like that. And it was an amazing kind of thing. I remember once I was doing a duet with Jack Jones, and he had, over on the other side of the studio, he had something he was singing. And during that commercial, he had to run to the spot where I was waiting, and I had to learn the verse to the song on my own because he might not have been able to make it from his spot on the other side of the NBC. It was a huge place to the spot where we were shooting our duet. And sure enough, he was wearing a cardigan sweater, and he was running under one of the cameras, and the collar of his sweater got caught on the camera, and I'm standing there and I'm hearing the intro, and there's no Jack Jones, and I'm going, oh my God. And they put the camera, and he just whizzed. Thank God he got there just in time, but it was all live, there we were.
As you're waiting for the quintessential actor's nightmare to start for you.
Exactly. So it was not without its dangerous side, TV, live TV especially. Oh my God. It's all right when you're taping something. That live stuff was pretty nerve-wracking.
Well, I have one more television appearance clip to show.
That's sweet.
This is from 1984, and you with the Glenn Miller Orchestra.
You're doing that? Oh, that was I'm so thrilled.
Skylark, have you anything to say to me? Won't you tell me where my love can be? Is there a meadow in the mist where someone's waiting to be kissed? Skylark, have you seen a valley green with spring where my heart can go journeying over the shadows and the rain to a blossom-covered lane? And in your lonely flight, haven't you heard the music of the night? Wonderful music, played as the will-o'-the-wisp, crazy as the moon, sad as a gypsy serenading the moon. Oh, Skylark, I don't know if you can find this thing, but my heart is riding on your wings. So if you see them anywhere, won't you lead me there?
Oh, my chance to be with all those horn players. My God, they were great.
Oh, and again, though, your performance was so focused.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I loved being able to do that, and I was pleased. I thought it went well. I was scared, but I just focused on the song, like I always do. Focused on the music, and
Which
And
is why, Anita, you were made for the art form of cabaret. You have that sensibility before you even started doing this art form.
yeah,
Your approach was the cabaret approach.
I didn't know that then.
Mhm.
But I didn't. I just responded to what they give me when I sing too, and I've had, in the rehearsal, I find a lot of things that I want to do, but just having them there live
Mhm.
just gives me the lift that I need.
We were talking before we let the audience in tonight about how storytelling is really your go-to. It's what's important to you. How does that apply to cabaret for you?
Oh, well, that's where it's most important, I think. Because and you have to keep up with the stories
Mhm.
that go with the different songs. I mean, it's not just like when you're in a play or a musical. It's usually an arc that you play from the beginning to the very end of the show. But every time you get a new song, I mean, I could go from Once Upon a Time to Cabaret.
Mhm.
That's quite a different, approach. And how you get there is you just have to. It's instant. You have to be there, and you have to know it well. That's it. And I mean, I'm just so. That's why rehearsals are so.
Mhm.
And I always get more nervous when I haven't had. Well, everybody does. I do work very hard to be in the music and the lyrics. What I do, and it's joyous when you get it right. It is.
Once you got over the initial fear of this
Yeah,
art form and having to be yourself, do you find it freeing now?
I
Being able to tell
do.
your own story?
I do. I find it, the more I do it, the better I get at it. It's the times in between when you're not doing it, and then you have to get up again and do it because other things have been, in between. You've done maybe a film
Mhm.
or a little play somewhere, and you have to go back to this. And because I'm not, I don't appear a lot. I'm Birdland. I always,
Mhm.
got the Gianni Valenti. He's and Jim Caruso.
Mhm.
Oh, that place I love, and I just I do feel I'm getting to feel really at home when I get out there and enjoying myself, which is so different from when I started in the beginning. Because it was me, just me, you know, and usually a piano and maybe a bass and a drums, and but it it's just so rewarding. I
Mhm.
think it's just rewarding, and it's a work. I mean, you really have to be on top of it. And I've always admired people like Cheetah and those wonderful cabaret artists I've been to see, and it just I'm not quite. I don't think as good as they are, but I'm working on it.
Who are, since you're mentioning, Cheetah, and you mentioned Julie Wilson before, someone you
Julie,
admired in this art form. And also you mentioned how much you learned from Ethel. Who are the
yes.
artists now that when you go to see them in cabaret, that you're like, oh, this is what I'm striving for. This is who gets this
Well,
art form.
there's so many wonderful singers. I mean, Alyssa Erico is
Hmm.
fantastic, and oh Lord, I should have written down some of these names of people.
Sorry to put you on the
Um,
spot with this question.
oh, that's all right, I guess. But they're just, I I'm tongue tied. Who have I seen? I've seen so many.
Hmm. Well, that's the thing. You are not just a practitioner of the art form. You are a performer who very much supports other performers.
I do.
You
I
are
do.
always, whenever you can be, I know you are out there in the rooms supporting other performers, seeing who's doing good work in this art form.
Yeah, there's a lot of young people who are wonderful, really wonderful, and they're coming up strong. And I say, I'm always trying to encourage everybody. It's that.
What are the biggest changes, not just in the world of cabaret, but I was reading an interview with you talking about the changes that you've witnessed in just live performance in general over the course of your career. What are the biggest changes you think that you've borne witness to?
You mean cabaret performances per se?
Or any, we'll just say live performance as well.
Well, I guess what I really, the kind of music
Mm-hmm.
that I love, I feel is changing on Broadway at least. I think that it's more about rhythm than melody.
Mm.
And I mean, if I have to go and sing the old songs like of Irving Berlin and Richard Rodgers and all those people that I know and the melodies that I love, I'll do that. But I don't think that I can keep up with the bam 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 baby bum 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 bam bam, and I can't. I don't enjoy that as much as I do the kind of melodic things that I'm used to. I'll just have to say that. I know I should, and I do try to go see newer things, but I really am stuck on the melodies. I,
Are you more drawn to a melody or to a lyric as you're approaching a song?
I think that it's a combination of the two. But if usually when there's a good melody, the words usually follow that melody, and you get the combination of the two things, and it's very meaningful. Whereas the other stuff you move to. I mean, I sit in my chair, get up, and I kind of move to it, but it doesn't move my heart the way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably get killed for saying things like this.
No, and I will say you are not the first person in the series to say something very similar to that.
Oh,
Even
okay.
going back to our very first episode of Cabaret Conversations,
Yeah.
KT was our first guest,
Oh,
and she
oh
said
God, I
something
love her.
very similar.
Yeah. That's true. She's right. That's the way I feel.
Now, I have to bring this up because you told me about it in our pre-interview before we let the audience in. And you told me you don't think you'll ever finish it. So I told you I was going to mention it in front of the audience to get a rallying cry around it. Tell us about the memoir you've started.
Oh my goodness. Oh no, my goodness. Well, I tell so many stories all the time. And then I thought, I started writing down things that I might talk about in a cabaret show. A lot of stories like Merman saying the kid stays in the show, like that kind of stuff. And I found that that I started putting it together, but I don't know. It's in a rough form, let's say, and a guy named Paul Aguirre has tried to help me, but we've really been together, seen each other for over a year now, and I always say I got to get back to the memoir. And people, I think they would, laugh at it and they would love it, and even the sad things.
Well, just from the stories you've shared with us this evening, I say you must finish your memoir. It's something that we as an audience need from you.
Thank you, Michael. It gives me encouragement.
And I'm saying it. I brought it up in front of our audience so that they can rally behind you as well.
Oh goodness!
And tell you how much we want your memoir.
Thank you.
We are sadly getting close to the end of my portion of the evening before I turn over to the audience to ask some questions.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Every edition of Cabaret Conversations has ended with the same question. And I will ask you this, then we'll have one more clip, and then we'll go over to the audience. Audience, okay. If you do not want to ask your question out loud, you can put your question in a direct message in the chat to me, and I can ask it for you. Otherwise, I will give instructions on the other side of the clip if you want to ask it yourself. But Anita, again, every episode has ended with this same question. In a few words, a sentence, a couple sentences, what is cabaret?
Cabaret is a means of communication that can be beautiful, intimate, demonstrative, and warming. I think that once the performer or the singer or the person on the stage with the microphone feels warmth, usually from those people who are right there, could reach out and touch you. That it's an intimacy that doesn't quite happen when there's an audience with a pit in front of it, or you can't really. It's a and for the intimacy, if you are honest and and you want to share as a performer, you want to share what you have to offer, that they are there and longing for you, and you just deliver it, and you ride the audience with the laughs, and it's just, I think it's a lovely form of communication.
That's a fantastic answer. Well, here is our final clip for the evening. You at the Mac Awards at BB King's with a little life lesson for us.
My goodness.
Don't postpone joy. And that's what I have to say to all of you, too. Because in the final analysis, after all, life is just a bowl of cherries.
It is.
Don't take it serious. It's too mysterious. You work, you slave, you worry so. But you can't take your dough when you go, go, go. Keep repeating, it's the berries. The strongest oak must fall. The sweet things in life to you are just loaned. So how can you lose what you've never owned? Life is just a bowl of cherries, so live and laugh at it all. Life is just a bowl of cherries. I don't believe in an afterlife, but I'm taking a change of underwear anyway. You work, you slave, you worry so, but you can't take your dough. Did you ever see a U-Haul following a hearse? Keep repeating, it's the berries. The strongest, I knew a woman who willed her body to science. Only science is contesting the will. So how can you lose what you've never owned? Life, I know a man who's so old, when he orders a 3-minute egg, they ask for the money up front. Life is just a bowl of cherries, so live and laugh at it all. Nobody beat the system yet.
That is our fantastic guest for this evening, Anita Gillette.
Thank you, Mike.
If you have a question you would like to ask, you can turn your camera on and I will invite you to join us. Or if you want to put it in the chat, you can do that and I will ask it for you. The first question came through the chat a little while ago, so I will ask that first. You mentioned working with Irving Berlin. Did you get a chance to know Mr. Sondheim while you were in Gypsy or at any other time?
That was in Gypsy. I got to know Mr. Sondheim, but not well. I only did one of his a workshop of what ended up to be Bounce
Mm-hmm.
Roadshow. I did that, and it didn't work out. So I didn't get the job in the end, and it was a great disappointment for me. But that's another story.
It's another story for the memoir.
Okay, that's going to be in it then.
Good. Michael Colby, I'm going to invite you in next.
Michael.
You could unmute.
Oh, hi, Michael. I can't hear you.
I am.
Oh,
I'm just so privileged because I actually saw Mr. President.
oh my goodness, you're not old enough to have seen that.
Oh, yes, I am. You know better than that.
No, I'm just, I don't, you don't look it.
Well, it's the painting rotting in the attic.
Yes, that's it.
Anyway, I just don't drink the water. And sheep on the runway. Well, you were in Sheep in the Runway, weren't you?
I was in the what? On the
Runway.
the run?
The Art Buchwald play. Or maybe you weren't in that, but
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Well, I definitely don't drink the water, and just so many more. And you know that
Oh,
you're in my book that I wrote that you're my favorite Sally Bowles of all time.
oh, yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you. It's a great book, by the way. It really is.
Thank you.
Great book.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight, Michael.
Thank you.
Did you have a question or just wanted to have the comment?
Oh, I just want to say hello.
Well, always a joy to have you in the audience for Cabaret Conversations.
Send you a
Mr.
kiss.
Mr. Diefenbach, I see your camera on. Do you have something you'd
Oh,
like
Jerry.
to add
Hi,
you in as I
Jerry.
remove Michael?
Hi, Jerry. I can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. Hi.
Hi.
I want to first of all say that, of course, we have our mutual love for Paul Greenwood, your musical director,
Absolutely.
and our mutual love for our dear friends Jeff Knapp and Nelson Aspen. So
Yeah,
my
yeah.
comment was about when you came in to guest on Nelson Aspen's show. That you told me about Joe Williams, and I loved Joe Williams. I used to see him on the Tonight Show when I was a teenager, and that's when I discovered him. And I said, "Oh my God, where's this guy been? Oh, there's
Yeah.
Izzy. Hi, Izzy." So I love that you told me that Joe introduced you to the song. He may be your man, but
That's
he comes
right.
down to see me once in a while.
That's right.
Did you
You
tell?
know, but
Did you
he
tell
said
that story?
she may be your woman, but she come to see me sometime. And
Yeah.
and I did that. Yeah, you're right. It was Joe. who
I
told me
love
about
that story. So that's great. It's great to see you, and it's been great to watch this. So
You
thank
too.
you.
What a wonderful accompanist, this guy. What a
Oh,
wonderful
amazing
Thank
accompanist.
you.
Yes.
Thank
I get the
you. I
privilege of
appreciate
working
that.
with Jerry every Friday night at Don't Tell Mama.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Come in and see us when you can.
I will. I
Okay.
will.
Thanks for being here,
Okay.
Jerry.
Love you. Thank you. Bye.
And I'm going to add Meg Flather in with us. She has a question.
Oh, wow. Talk about a performer.
You
Hi.
did. So my question, I always ask this question because I'm so humbled by great vocalists. And I want to ask about your relationship with your voice,
With my voice?
your voice, and what it was like and what it is like when you perform vocally in all the various mediums that you perform. What you tap, what you hold on to. Are you scared? Are you secure? What grounds you? Because watching these clips, you just have a mastery of just that place,
Oh,
place of going from
I
surprise.
never.
I
Well,
just
I get when I get nervous. Then I know that I'm no good, so I have to calm myself down. I talk to myself. I sit in the dressing room and say, "You're not going to do this. You're going to be." I talk to myself like an idiot, or I think I'm,
no, not an idiot.
yeah, like that. But you, I think I'm old, so there was an article about the voice deteriorating, and IMDb has kept me from a lot of work. I think in the field that I was in. Oh, the IMDb on the international movie database.
Right.
And they say to everybody, Anita Gillette, and they say the DOB, date of birth, and then as if they don't want anybody to have any problems subtracting or adding, they put a comma, and then they actually write the words out, da 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 years old. And I think that there's Ed Asner before he went tried to get rid of that, and he was not able to get rid of it because it really is ageism. Because a lot of these casting directors have their own, the little assistants that just out of college, like 22, 23, and they go to IMDb and they see it twice, not once, but twice. They see the date of birth that you are. And when I go in for people in their 80s, which I am, they say I don't look old enough to be in my 80s. I don't look like an old woman, although I am an old woman. I go in and try to get the job, and I don't get the job. So what do I anyway, I don't know where I went with that. Why did I go with that? But my voice is aging. And my biggest regret is that I never learned to belt. I learned a mix, that I would put up I bring the bottom to the top and mix it. And I could do that, but I've never been a true belter. And in this day and age, if you're not a belter, they sure don't want a lot of sopranos around, And
So I'm gonna correct you because I know a few things.
what?
And the fact that you don't belt is why we connect with you. We feel you through your authentic voice. We feel your story. We feel your heart. We feel who you are. Belting is sensational. It's exciting, but it's this. And what you do, beautiful woman, is this.
Oh,
You are singing so beautifully, and I'm
thank
in
you.
awe of it. And you actually are an inspiration for me because I think the truth is we should be from the top to the bottom. That's how you tell a story, and that's what Richard Rogers wanted. So you're just fine, beautiful. You're spectacular.
Thank you, Meg. You're making me cry.
And
Thank you.
the final question I wanted to ask is when you were auditioning in New York in the early days, did you think about your singing?
Did I what?
Did you think about singing? Like, did you just go to those auditions and sing? Were you neurotic? Were you worried? Were you?
I just did it. I knew that I had to do it. And I just as I said, I talk to myself a lot. And some people think I'm nuts, but I have to talk to myself sometimes. I don't have anybody else to talk to sometimes. So I just have to tell myself in front of the dressing room mirror sometimes that I just got to do this and this, and I have to. But the thing is, it's the rehearsal. It's going over it and over it, and I'm so needy of that, and I know it, and I do it, and I don't get out of bed before I've done the new opening number that Penny and I have on April. I just go through the thing, sometimes I wake up early, but I don't get out of bed. I do the number in my head. So I think that, and also experience, I have more confidence now than in my 80s. But, it's my voice is not as good as it used to be. It can't, but I manage okay. And I had a good teacher.
Your voice is truthful to where you are now.
Yes.
Thank you. That's it. I don't.
And one final question. Back in the day when you were auditioning, did you even think about it, or did you have a technique?
No, I just they asked me what key, and I'd already probably rehearsed the audition pieces and knew what key to put it in, and I would just and that was it. Because if I let my nerves get a hold of me, then I would be no good. So I always, sometimes it didn't work, but sometimes I would always try to relax myself by talking and saying a couple maybe funny things to
I
the
mean,
director or the casting person.
Michael, I see you having a thought about this. I'm going to bring you back in. Thank you,
Ju-
Meg.
Julie Wilson played Lala Loom in Kismet, and she
Ah.
proved more than anyone that it's what you do with the words. And
Yes,
you are
that's right.
extraordinary at that.
Oh, yeah. She would, I wish I would have.
You could have fooled me when I saw you in Cabaret in Mr. President, that you don't belt.
Oh, really? Thank you. Thank you. That was my good mix, kid. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Michael. And thank you all for joining us tonight. A little housekeeping from the Y before we finish up this evening. The next round of 3 Cabaret Conversations will go on sale later this week, and you, audience who are with us live, are the first to hear the lineup. In April, I will be joined by award-winning performer and now booking director of the Green Room 42 and Chelsea Table and Stage, Mr. Ben Rimmelauer will be my guest.
Oh,
In May, I will be joined by another Mac Lifetime Achievement recipient. Sharon McKnight will be on the program. And then the Crown Prince of Cabaret joins in June. Mr. Steve Ross will be with us. So all 3 of those will go on sale later this week. The next round of Cabaret Performance Class from the Y begins at the end of May. You can find that on the website as well. My deepest thanks to our guest this evening. Anita, thank you for sharing your heart and your stories with us tonight on Cabaret Conversations.
thank you, Michael, for inviting me.
It's been an absolute joy to have you.
I've had a good time.
Thank you, audience, for joining us as well, and I hope to see you again on another Cabaret Conversations through the 92nd Street Y New York School of Music. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meg.
Bye.
Michael.